And what's really important, too, and I'm just going to go back to the 9/11 style commission that needs to be launched. We need to know, were there actually members that were giving tours the day before?
Yeah.
Were there members that were calling during the terrorist attack, IDing the location of Nancy Pelosi and other members of Congress that the mob would be interested in abducting and possibly killing? They certainly were looking for Mike Pence to kill him. And yet, despite all of this, you have Republicans who went ahead and voted to not count millions and millions of votes. And you have others who are trying to downplay this mob, still trying to downplay this mob, Mika, like Ron Johnson, who said he wasn't concerned because they were law-abiding people. No, they were bashing police officers' heads. They were jamming police officers' heads indoors. They were bear spraying a police officer who later died.
He's dead.
These are terrorists. I will say, if Ron Johnson saw these people, and he said this because he's a bigot.
Yeah.
If you judge him by his words, he's a bigot. He said if these were black people, then he would have been scared. As I said the day after, if they were black people, they would have all been shot in the face. If they were Muslims, they would have been sniped from the top of the building. They were white people. So
no one knew what to do?
This BS was allowed to continue for too long. The National Guard wasn't called in. Police officers didn't move as quickly. Some Capitol Hill cops were letting them move in and out freely, opening up the gates, letting them run through it. This is just, it's grotesque. And it is an insult. It is an insult to the police officers who died that day and who were hurt that day, that a United States senator is saying that these were peaceful, law-abiding people who he wasn't worried about. He would have been worried if they were black. But they weren't black, so this didn't bother him.
Yeah, there are reporters and people, staffers, people who work there who are still suffering from PTSD from this day. As you mentioned, Ron Johnson, Joe, the Republican senator is defending his comments, if this is possible, that he made about Black Lives Matter protesters and the deadly Capitol riot. Here's what he said late last week, followed by his defense yesterday.
I knew that even though those thousands of people that were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people like me to vote the way they wanted me to vote, I knew those are people that love this country, that truly respect law enforcement, would never do anything to break a law. And so I wasn't concerned. Now, had the tables been turned, and Joe, this got me in trouble. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election, and those were tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I might have been a little concerned. There was nothing racial about my comments, nothing whatsoever. Now, this isn't about race, this is about riots. And I was, I have been attacked and criticized because I pushed back on the narrative that, there were thousands of armed insurrectionists, and that's just part of a small part of the 74 million Americans that voted for President Trump that also need to be suspect of being potential domestic terrorists or also potentially armed insurrectionists. This is a false narrative. I wasn't surprised, but it's still pretty shocking that they would take what I consider completely innocuous comment and turn it into, use the race card on me.
An innocuous comment where he said, I'm going to get in trouble for saying this.
Yeah, so he knew.
He knew exactly what he was doing.
He has an op-ed in today's Wall Street Journal entitled, Joe, I won't be silenced by the left. No, keep talking.
No,
honestly, the left is good.
Yeah, let me tell you, Ron, the left doesn't want you to be silenced, because the more you say bigoted things like you said the other day, the more you actually help the left.
And the world sees who you are.
And the more you hurt Republicans. So, yes, Ron, they don't want you to be silenced. And, of course, you aren't silenced because you actually wrote an op-ed in one of the largest newspapers on the planet, one of the most important newspapers on the planet. I mean, this whole, we keep hearing this, Willie. I will not be silenced as people write op-eds in the New York Times and the Wall Street Journal and go on national news networks and actually get more access to the American people than anybody else. It's just a stupid, stupid argument. But again, Ron Johnson said he was going to get in trouble for saying this, but these people truly respect law enforcement, unlike Black Lives Matters marchers, and they would never break the law. What the hell? How does he say that when several cops are dead and scores of cops were beaten, battered, and abused by Donald Trump supporters that day? They were going around wanting to hang Mike Pence and chanting it, had a noose for Mike Pence. They were calling for Nancy Pelosi, wanted to get her, and there were Republicans just as scared of this mob as Democrats. So how does Ron Johnson say that people's lives being endangered and police officers being killed is not worrisome to him as black people march?